Okay, so hi everyone. I am Qotrunnada Sabila. So today I would like to explain on part 2, context of learning and teaching, on chapter 7, teaching across proficiency levels, from Teaching by Principle book by Douglas Brown. So let's get started. First, about defining proficiency levels. In the United States, one of the first official sets of competencies was compiled in the 1960s by the United States Foreign Service Institute, or FSI, or Interagency Language Roundtable, or ILR, to address the need for standards of oral proficiency for government workers in other countries. The FSI oral interview is a carefully designed set of structured tasks that elicit pronunciation, fluency, and integrative ability, and then social linguistic and cultural knowledge, grammar, and vocabulary. And then here, the picture on the slide is a summary of ILR speaking proficiency levels. And then this is the level is from 0 until 5, and then you can read and understanding about the description. And then the second is IELTS pen score. Over the years, the British Council has invested a great deal of effort and expertise in teaching English worldwide, and one of its major language agencies is the International English Language Testing System, or we know that as IELTS, and used in dozens of countries for academic, occupational, and business purposes. The IELTS assesses listening, and then speaking, reading, and writing, and the IELTS pen scale, not unlike the FSE levels, standard is a system of tests and defines broadly based descriptor of 10 different levels of ability. And here from table 7.2 outlines those levels. It is ranging from 0 to 9, and in this case is designed to apply to any of the 4 skills. And then a CTFL proficiency guidelines. The American Council on Teaching Foreign Language, one of the leading national organizations of foreign language pedagogy in the United States, publishes a multi-page detailed description of proficiency levels in each of the 4 skills of listening, speaking, reading, and writing. The ACTFL proficiency guidelines, designed in 1986 as an adaptation of the SFI or ILR before. Levels for the academic community are a recognized proficiency standard in many language teaching circles. And then the Common European Framework of Reference. By the early 2000s, Common European Framework of Reference, or we know it as CFR, was developed that focused on linguistic, social linguistic, and pragmatic competence, now widely used and respected across Europe and well beyond. The CFR defines competences for basic users of language, independent users, and proficient users, splitting each of these 3 categories into 2 subcategories. The CFR specifies competences for listening, speaking, reading, and writing. And then from the table 7.5 gives you CFR descriptor for flexibility in this course competence. And then we moved into teaching beginning levels. The teaching beginners is considered by many to be the most challenging level of language instruction. The following 10 factors will help you to formulate an approach to teaching beginners. As you more fully grasp each factor, you will be able to design lessons and activities that are consistent with your approach. The first is a student's cognitive learning process. And those first few days and even weeks of language learning, students processing with respect to the L2 itself is operating with very few background schemata to rely on. That is, few existing cognitive packs on which to hang new words and structures. And then the role of teacher. Beginning students are highly dependent on the teacher for models of language, and so a teacher-centered or a teacher-fronted classroom is appropriate for some of your classroom time. And students are able to initiate a few questions and comments. So it is your responsibility to keep the ball rolling. And then teacher talk. Our input in the class is crucial. All ears and eyes are indeed focused on you. Your own English needs to be clearly articulated. It is appropriate to slow your speech somewhat for easier student comprehension, but don't slow it too much that it loses its naturalness. And then authenticity of language. Even at the beginning of level of L2 learning, it's important to present to student language that is as authentic as possible. Simple greetings and introductions, for example, are authentic and yet easily understood. And then fluency and accuracy. Fluency is a goal at this level, but only within limited utterance length. Fluency doesn't have to apply only to long utterances. The flow of the language is important to establish from the beginning in reasonably short segments. Attention to accuracy should center on the particular grammatical, phonological, or discourse elements that are being practiced. And then students' creativity. The ultimate goal of learning a language is to be able to comprehend and produce it in unrehearsed situation, which demands both receptive and productive creativity. And then activities and tasks. Short, simple techniques must be used. And then listening and speaking goals. Notice that the listening and conversation functions for beginners are meaningful and authentic communication tasks. There are limited more by grammar, vocabulary, and length of utterances than by communicative function. And then reading and writing goals. The most important contextual factors that you should bear in mind in teaching reading and writing to beginners is their literacy level in their own native language. And then form-focused instruction. Whether or not you choose to overtly explain grammar in the classroom is another issue. If you are teaching an L2 in a non-L2 speaking country and your students all speak the same native language, you may profit from occasionally using the L1 to explain grammatical points. In other situations where you must rely only on the L2 in the classroom, grammatical explanations of any complexity could easily overwhelm the students. And in teaching intermediate levels beyond the plateau. As Richard's 2008 notes, a common experience at this stage is to feel that they have reached a plateau in their language learning and do not perceive that they are making further progress. Richards described 5 characteristics of the plateau. The first, a gap between receptive and productive competence, fluency that has progressed at the expense of accuracy, a limited vocabulary range, adequate production ability but speech that is unnatural, and then persistent, frequent language errors. And then let's look at some practical suggestions under the rubric of the same 10 topics of the previous section. And first is students' cognitive learning process. Learners immediately control desktop are too small to contain all the information we need. One of the teacher's principal goals at this level is to help students to continue to automatize the bits and pieces of language that might otherwise clutter the mind. And then the role of the teacher. You are no longer the only initiator of language. Students should be encouraged to ask questions, make comments, and negotiate certain options in learning where appropriate. More students interaction, more student-student interaction can now take place in pairs, small groups, and a whole class activity. And teacher talk, most of your oral production can be sustained at a natural pace as long as your articulation is clear. And then authenticity of language. At this level, students sometimes become overly concerned about grammatical correctness and may want to wander into esoteric discussions of grammatical details. This penchant for analysis might get them too far afield from authentic real language. Make sure they stay on the track, but still allow for some form-focused instruction. And then fluency and accuracy. Some students are likely to become overly concerned about accuracy, possibly berating themselves for the mistakes they make and demanding constant corrections for every slip up. In general, fluency exercises are a must at this level. They help to get students over the hump of always having to say or write everything absolutely correctly. And then for the student creativity, students are also becoming more capable of applying their classroom language to unrehearsed situation. In some settings, the situation may be more difficult to find, but through the various forms of technological and print media application to the real world, heretofore unrehearsed in the classroom are available and should be encouraged. And then activities and tasks, common interactive techniques for intermediate include chain stories, surveys, and polls, peer interviews, group problem solving, role-play storytelling, and many others. And then listening and speaking goals. The linguistic complexity of communicative listening speaking goals increases steadily. Along with the creation of novel utterances, students can participate in short conversation and etc. And then reading and writing goals. Increasing complexity in terms of length, grammar, and discourse now characterize reading material as students read paragraph and short, simple stories and are beginning to use skimming and scanning skills. And then the form-focused instruction, grammar topics such as progressive verb tenses and causes typify intermediate novel teaching. Students can benefit from small doses of short, simple explanation of points in English. And then for teaching advanced levels, as students move up the developmental ladder, they get closer and closer to their goals, developing fluency along with the greater degree of accuracy. Let's look at some practical suggestion that same as the previous. The first is student cognitive learning process. As competence in language continues to build, students can realize the full spectrum of processing, assigning larger and larger chunks to automatic modes and gaining the confidence to put the formal structures of language on the periphery so that local attention may be given to the interpretation and negotiation of meaning and to the conveying of thoughts and feelings in interactive communication. And then the role of the teacher. On the surface, your job might appear easier with advanced students. You can sit back and let their questions and self-generated curiosity take over. And then teacher talk. Natural language at natural speed is a must at this level. Make sure your students are challenged by your choice of vocabulary, structure, idiom, and other language features. And then for authenticity of language, everything from academic prose to literature to idiomatic conversation becomes a legitimate resource for the classroom. Virtually, no authentic language material should be summarily disqualified at this stage. Certain restrictions may come to bear depending on how advanced your class is, of course. And then fluency and accuracy. At this level, most, if not all of your students are fluent in that they have passed beyond the breakthrough stage and are no longer thinking about every word and structure they are producing on comprehending. And then students' creativity. The joy of teaching at this level is in those moments of students' performance when you know that they are now able to apply classroom material to real context beyond. And then for activities and tasks, typical of this level are activities like group debates and argumentation, complex role plays, and extra. And then listening and speaking goals. At this level, students can focus more carefully on all the social linguistic nuances of language. And then for reading and writing goals, reading and writing skills similarly progress closer and closer to native speaker competence as students learn more about such things as critical reading, the role of schemata interpreting written text, and writing a document related to one's profession. And then form focused instruction, the concern at the intermediate level for basic grammatical patterns now graduates to functional forms, sociolinguistic and pragmatic phenomena, and building strategic competence. Okay, so that's all about the chapter 7. Thank you for your attention and see you.